Warning: due to the content of this episode's film review, Wake in Fright, topics involving sexual assault and suicide will be discussed. Listeners who are sensitive to these topics should proceed with caution. Welcome back to Coffee Nick's Movie Picks, a bold blend of sometimes coffee and movie review podcasting. My name is Nick Delaney, and I am your show host, coffee and movie reviewer, and the guy who thinks the kangaroos should live. In this episode, I'm joined by a special guest all the way from Australia to discuss an odd film from Down Under, Wake in Fright. In honor of this film, today's episode will be the show's first and probably only beer review. Everyone, please take a seat, stay a while, and let's talk movies over some beers. Today's guest is a relative of mine coming all the way from Down Under. He's a photographer, bluey dad, lover and creator of many art forms, and a beer connoisseur. Everyone, please welcome to the show, Jarrod Priestly.
Hey.
Hey, Jarrod, how you doing?
Good, how are you? Happy to be here.
Good, thanks. Yeah, I'm very excited to finally have you on. It's been in talks for quite a while, so yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, definitely. We've been talking about, just movies between us for a while and Australian films, so it's good to finally be on, and I'm excited too.
Yeah, absolutely. How is everything down there in Australia?
Yeah, not too bad. We're going into winter at the moment, so opposite to you guys. So it's getting cold in the houses, but then again, we're used to it being cold, and for you guys, it's probably like, oh, this is nice. This is spring. This is,
Yeah.
Oh, it's only getting down to 50 degrees. Oh, something like that. Yeah, just trying to do the translation in my head.
Yeah, it's so weird in this film seeing it takes place like during Christmas time, and it was so weird like seeing it be like so hot out at Christmas. Because up here we always associate like winter, snow, and cold with Christmas time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I am very excited. Thank you, first of all, for being here and for introducing me to this film, because this is a really cool movie. I'm very excited to talk about it. But we have some business to get into before we do all of that. Our first segment that we do whenever we have a guest on is called The Coffee Table. And this is a segment reserved for the show's special guest to talk about the media that they're currently caught up in. So Jarrod, this pays homage to kind of like coffee table magazine spreads. Back in the day, people would put out magazines that like were of interest to them, to kind of like show off to their guests what those interests are. So I like for this segment to be the special guest's opportunity to talk about whatever music, shows, movies, podcasts, really any media type that they're currently interested in, and share that with the audience. So what are you currently watching or listening to?
Wow. Oh man, I reckon we could do 3 hours on just me talking about what I'm up to, because well, I'll just try to keep it short. Well, this is almost like a little plug to what I'm up to, but I'm starting an internet radio show with a good friend of mine. Just being kind of born out of these conversations as well, where like we talk about music and constantly send each other stuff. I'm like, oh, hey, let's do that. So, I think that's just a good little intro into what I'm listening to at the moment. Because on the show we just play lots of underground niche genre music. Been listening to lots of music to be able to do that show. Been doing it weekly for a couple of weeks now. It's called I Fucking Quit, or IFQFM. So
Very cool.
that's fun.
And what are like some of the artists that you're listening to for the show?
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. UK rapper Jornino, he's really good, kind of SoundCloud grime, kind of that UK sound. a band called Wednesday put out a new track recently, and it's funny. This is something I'm going to bring up with you because I only recently listened to MJ Letterman, and then I saw
Oh.
you like put it on one of your stories or something, and I was like, oh, of course you're on it because I felt like I was late on the party with MJ Letterman. So I've been loving his band. That Tiny Desk that he did with his band
Yeah.
was really good. But the band Wednesday is a band that he is in. He's the guitarist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a female-fronted sort of alt country '90s sort of band. They put out a single called Huckleberry Wine
Cool.
about a couple of days ago. So I've been listening to that. So yeah, like weird electronic music,
Yeah.
drum and bass, country music, and like niche, like hardcore and metal, extreme stuff. So yeah, it's but usually I would talk about an album, but now I'm doing a radio show. I'm thinking about individual songs. It's kind
Yeah.
of changed my listening habits a bit because usually I'm an album guy, front to back.
Right.
Yeah. So music wise, that's what I've been up to. Been watching White Lotus season 3. I'm sure
Nice.
everybody's been watching that. I
Yeah.
feel like that's a show that everybody likes.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it's a catch-all. Like it can be arty, but for some reason it just kind of catches everybody in on it. But
Hmm.
me and Melissa were discussing. I reckon it's the best season so far. We haven't
Really?
finished it, but yeah, I reckon it's way better. I think all the characters are dialed in. I feel like a lot of callback to earlier episodes, interesting plot line. Like, yeah, so
Uh,
I've been enjoying that.
nice. Nice. Yeah. Everyone in DC, like everyone you talk to at a bar or anything, they want to talk about White Lotus. And as someone who has never really seen a full season, it's just kind of like, okay, cool. So that is definitely like the show right now. That and Severance was like the other one that everyone was talking
Yeah.
about. But really cool. Where can people listen to your internet radio show if they would like to?
It's actually not anywhere at the moment, but it will be on
Okay.
SoundCloud. We're just getting the episodes out, just recording until we've got like it down, and then we're just going to release about 10 episodes in a row and just
Nice.
say you can start listening. But it will be on SoundCloud, and I think we'll be using an internet radio site called Mixcloud, which you'll be able to get the visuals because it's also going to have a visual element, so audio only and a video one. But just
Nice.
working out the copyright with YouTube and things like that because we're playing other people's music. So I don't think it will stay up on YouTube that long. But yeah, I'm sure once it's up, we can put something in the show notes there.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah. Send me the link once it is all out there. And for those listening, Jarrod is Melissa's husband. Melissa was on the episode with the Gremlins. So this is just like a nice little full circle moment. All right. Well, thank you for sharing what you're currently caught up in. I will definitely link your radio show to the show notes if it is out in time. But it's really cool. Okay, so our next segment, usually this is our Now Brewing, where we have a coffee discussion and review segment. But for today only, Now Brewing, we are brewing beer instead of coffee. I thought that this would be a really fun kind of pivot from what we usually do because of the movie and what the movie's about. There is a lot of beer. So brewing today is beer. Jarrod, what beer do you have to discuss?
Well, there was a few things that I was gonna do. So I'll tell you what I was gonna do. I was gonna get a coffee stout because I was like, do like the flip on it and get like a really nice coffee stout because I am into craft beer. It's not me just reaching. Like I really do enjoy coffee stouts. But there was something else that we noticed in the movie, and it's something that we'll probably get a bit into when we talk about the movie. But I have
Mm.
brought in the beer from the movie, West End Draught. It still exists. It doesn't look the same as in the movie, but it's
No
it's a
way.
South Australian beer. And the movie is actually shot in South Australia. Um,
Oh, awesome.
I'm not sure how much we should talk about the movie now, but yeah, no. So
No, no, it's all connected.
yeah, okay, yeah. So the town in the movie is actually a made-up town. It's not real, but it's actually set in Broken Hill, which is in outback
Okay.
South Australia. But yeah, so we have West End Draft, and this is completely opposite in taste to my beer taste Well, I have a very wide beer taste. I have a very wide coffee taste. I have a very wide music taste. I think, like in coffee, I love pour overs. Um, I love batch brews. I love long blacks. Just really nice single origin. Just testing different flavors because I only drink black coffee. But one of my loves is shitty diner coffee, and
Ah.
the same thing with beer. This beer is the shitty diner coffee. It just tastes like a fucking beer. Oh, sorry. Can I swear in the show? I don't.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Actually, keep swearing. Yeah.
Yeah, because we swear a lot here in Australia. That's not a overstatement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got West End Draft, and another fun fact. I don't know if you guys do this in the States, but we have trivia questions inside the bottle cap.
Oh,
which
no way.
Which I'll give. It's only some. It's more like just the Australian Bogan beers. So I'm going to give you a question, and it's going to be.
Okay, let's see.
It's just you're not going to get it all because it's always Australian like sports trivia or like political history or something.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Which horse won the Melbourne Cup in 1998 and 1999? I mean 1968 and 1969.
Like Secretariat? I don't know. Would you know that answer?
No, I would not. It is Rain Lover.
Okay. Rain Lover. Noted.
Also, I've got another one here. So I'll probably midway through the pod hit you with the other question.
Okay. Yeah. I'll be ready for it. For it. That's so cool though. Yeah, I also have a deep love for diner coffee or diner beers. I don't know if while you were in the States, while you were visiting, if you had the chance to go to Waffle House.
Yeah, no, I love Waffle House. It's like I love it when it just sits there all fucking day. It's just
Yeah, they have good diner coffee there. Yeah, and then obviously PBR is like our good shitty beer. I don't think it's shitty though. I really like PBRs.
Yeah.
They're great. But none of those have trivia questions on them, so I guess you guys win. But that's so cool. What does that beer taste like?
Yeah, so usually I'd be drinking a craft beer and I'd be able to tell you the hops and like the malt profile, but this just tastes, as I said, it tastes like a PBR, maybe a little bit more malty. I mean, it's not like a light beer. I'd say light in taste. It's a full strength 4.5% beer. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a lager or a draft. We call them like draft beer. It's also very similar, but yeah, I'll show the label.
You guys spell it differently though.
Yeah.
That looks like we would say draught, which doesn't make sense, but yeah. Okay, very cool. Very cool. Very connected to the movie. So the beer that I brought to talk about, I don't actually have it with me or I'm not drinking it, is Narragansett. Don't even know if I'm saying it right. I am not a beer person at all, but whenever a bar does have a Narragansett, I usually get it. But this is like a lager beer. It's brewed in Rhode Island, and the brewery has been around since 1890. So I'm guessing this is like a pretty popular beer in the States, but I really enjoy it. What I'm drinking now, though, is a mango hard seltzer, my drink of choice. So yeah, nothing too special. I don't know how to talk about beers at all. So yeah.
It's Narragansett Bay is in Rhode Island. You were saying it's from Rhode Island?
Yes.
So
yeah,
beer. Mm-hmm. Ooh, this looks interesting. Good, I'm getting a suggestion of a guy on YouTube with a beard and a hat with it in a glass talking about it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'll have to get one of it. No. It just seems like okay, yeah. So they've made like a nice little. Yeah, I like the aesthetic. It's cool.
Yeah. It's very like old timey feeling. It kind of does remind me like of a PBR a little bit. But this has, if I had to describe it like in coffee terms, which maybe this translates well, it kind of has like a citrusy taste to it. Whereas like PBR, it kind of has like a weird like floral taste almost, at least in my opinion. So yeah, that's like the main difference, but both lagers, I guess. Yeah, really cool. How would you rate your beer, Jarrod?
Oh, I would rate it a 10. It's a staple. Drink it all day long and you'll be fine. But flavor profile, as I said, it's just very standard.
Yeah.
And just talking about different lagers, I guess, yeah, just a bit more maltier and a bit more, just a bit more beer. It's a beer that really does taste like a beer. Like, I think it's just talking about PBR, West End, PBR, and then Narragansett. I think it's like almost like it's like there's the sliding scale there. Like one is like the heavier one, which is what I'm drinking, malt, and then PBR kind of sits in the middle. Like, yeah, floral would be a correct term.
Oh, cool.
I guess because lots of hops and malts have like floral sort of flavor profiles. And then, yeah, I'd probably get more to that citrusy, probably lighter drinking, similar to like maybe a Modelo or like a Corona.
Yes.
Like
yeah, very much like
that. Almost getting towards, it's funny, I'm describing your beer for you. It sounds like it's getting towards more of like a cerveza, which is a style of Mexican lager. So just think Corona. But yeah, I think that's where it would slide into that mix. So on that lager end, I think we've covered both bases. You've gone for a nice light, petite, and just like easy drinking. And then, yeah, you've got the full strength, just beer that just is a beer.
Yeah. I have to say, if I like came across a town full of men who like would yell at me and scream at me if I stopped drinking beer, I definitely want that beer to be something lighter. So I'm glad I chose my beer.
Oh,
all right, and I give my beer a Nick pick. It's very yummy. I really like this one.
Actually, I need to go back. I said 10. I don't usually give anything a 10 rating. Like 9s and 10s are like unicorns. I like to leave those. So I'm giving this is an 8. This is just a standard good beer. But yeah, a 10 is like a unicorn beer. It's something I'd find at like a really nice craft beer place. So yeah, sorry, I just had to think about that. I'm like, no, can't just give it a 10. I'm just saying 8 straight down the line.
No. That's a good backtrack. And I often do that with my movies. If I watch something and I'm walking out of the theater, I'll go on my letterbox and I'll be like, that was a masterpiece, 5 stars. And then I think about it, I'm like, okay, well, like, is it really, I have to take away half a star or something. So I get it. All right. Up next, Jarrod, this is our Coffee Thought segment. This is an outlet dedicated to voice our many incoherent thoughts over coffee or beers. So whenever there's a guest on, I like to hand it off to them. Jarrod, what's on your mind? What would you like to talk about or rant about?
It's just a hard one because the show is talking about like coffee, art. These are all things that are just on my mind all the time.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, here's like this thing to just like talk about something, clutter. But I'm like, oh,
yeah.
It's just probably more art and movies and chat. It's like that first segment, the coffee tables book.
Yeah.
Then I had like 7 more things I could have talked about. As like photo books, video games, like even more about the White Lotus and the hype, and I don't know. I'm just a machine when it comes to consuming art and enjoying things.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't know. This is because my thoughts aren't coherent because I have children, and so when you have children, it's really hard to think because it's really hard to organize your thoughts. So I think I've become dumber after having kids.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they steal half your brain. You have one kid that steals half your brain, and then you have another kid and it steals the other half of your brain.
Right.
And I even find I'll be down the road at the brewery having beers and we'll just be talking about something and or like just doing a quiz in like a newspaper, and I'll just start talking about something and I'm like, I just stop and I'm like, I've forgotten, like just something. And then like 40 minutes later, I'm just like, John Steinbeck. Because I've started talking about like Of Mice and Men, and then I just forgot the author, forgot everything. And I'm like, this is stuff that would could all day just come out of my mouth, and I know all the facts and relating like literature. And now it's just all of it just it's almost like it's been like, I guess you guys have basements. we
Yes.
have sheds.
Okay.
When your house just starts getting cluttered and you have to move stuff into the shed, and then it's just jammed in like plastic boxes and like storage boxes, and then my brain, like, there's like a little man that goes all the way to the back of the shed and he's just going through boxes pulling out like winter clothes, and he's just like, where the fuck is it? He's like, oh yes, this is the book. And then he brings it back and he's like, you were thinking about John Steinbeck. And I go, oh. After, like, because I'll start the conversation, I'll chat for about 5 minutes, and then I'll get to where I'm going, and then I'll just completely be like, oh, I don't even have the other half of that information.
Yeah. So where do you find time to, like, obviously you have to listen to a lot of music for your radio show, and you are an enjoyer of movies and arts, photography, all that stuff. Where do you find time to do that now, having two kids, two little kids?
Well, there's certain things that have to take like the back seat. It's just allocating time. I think the thing is, for me, like, I like having quality of time to have to be able to enjoy something. So
Right.
I think music, I'm always sort of just seeing things that are getting released and little bits here and taking notes. But I will take time to listen to a record front to back.
Mm.
Or listen to a podcast, and I go for a walk with the dog every afternoon when we get home from work, just to get out, get exercising, and I'll put on a podcast, or if there's a record I want to listen to, or sometimes just like with the kids, if we're driving somewhere and it's a while, I'm just like, yep, no, this is Dad's music. We're listening to this death metal record front to back. Like, this is just what's happening. Just go to sleep or just read a book. This is
Right.
what's going on. So yeah, I do that, and then just, yeah, it's like Thursday night. Just try to do the radio show then, because it's with a good friend I play video games with. We do like co-op story games at the moment.
Yeah.
We're playing like modded Elden Ring at the moment, playing that all the way through, because you can't play that completely co-op, and we've got a mod that's doing it, and we've got so we do that on a Friday night, so that's like play a little bit of video games there. But it was either Thursday or Friday, so that's what I do. It's like Thursday night is now radio, Friday is video games, Saturday night's date night. I guess that's movie night with me and Melissa.
Oh, nice.
So that's when we'll watch a movie. So that's when we get our movie fix. And then all the other nights, depending, we try and watch a show. And that's just when you get the kids to sleep.
Yeah.
And then I got like half a week, about like 5 or 6 days off in a month. And a friend of mine's coming over from interstate. He's a photographer as well. And we're going to go on a road trip and do photography because I think at this point, being so far down the line in photography, I mean, far down the line, just for anyone listening, I'm a photographer, not a working photographer. That's not really, I'm more in the art, like the fine art sort of love, long-term projects, 5-10 years to build. You're going out somewhere, you're building narrative, you're building story. Very slow process, very time consuming, and not traveling anymore or as much is definitely changed the way we go about that. So at the moment, I'm like, if I can get away for a week once a year, and go to the outback. Also, this movie, very reflective of the style of photography I enjoy. But yeah, anyway, to wrap that up, finding time, we can talk about that more later. I've got a note on that one. But yeah, wrapping it up, you just got to figure out time. And so I'm like, cool, if for a week I can go take photographs once a year, that's me finding time for that.
Yeah.
And I play music as well, but I got to put that aside until the kids are a bit older, and then I'll just teach them music, and that's something they can learn with me. But yeah, at the moment, not playing in bands or anything. But
well, soon you'll have your own rock band full of your own kids, so yeah. That's really cool, and thank you for sharing the insight into dad life. I think something like a lot of artists feel is kind of like the pressure to create, and like find like this time to do that. And I think what you just said is kind of proof that like these things do take time, and it's important to just kind of like find the time. And maybe you won't always have the time, but like it's what really matters is just finding it and making that time for yourself. So it's cool that you're still finding ways to chase after those like artistic ambitions and everything. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
No worries. Yeah.
And yeah, what you said about the movie, we'll talk about this more in a little bit, of course, but I definitely saw some photography aspects, and from what I've seen of your photography on Instagram and whatnot, which I can tag in the show notes as well, so look down there. Um, a lot of like the black and white images, kind of like this, it's like almost gritty at the surface, but if you dig deeper it's a little beautiful in strange ways. Definitely reminded me of like photography I've seen from you, specifically like parts that are very like in this movie that are very cerebral or very like the more horrific parts, where there's like images of different people flashing on the screen and everything. It almost felt like a photo book, like you were going through kind of like you wake up the next morning and all you see are flashes of the night before, almost like images. That was really cool. There's also a scene with kangaroos that I think does that really well, but we'll save all that. First, let's go on a break. You're invited to the Coffee House, a free members-only Patreon page from Coffee Nick's Movie Picks. On off weeks from the main show, join me in discussing themed collections of coffee and movie reviews. Currently, the Coffee House is brewing its first batch, Lynchian Picks, a 10-part collection diving deep into the dreamlike world of David Lynch films and black coffee. Membership is free to the Coffee House, which includes all collection episodes. For only $3 a month, you can tip your barista and become a regular tier member, which will grant you access to special bonus episodes, as well as having your name listed in ad breaks just like this one. I would like to give a sincere thank you to everyone that has signed up so far. I hope you're having a good time. If you would like to join, you can do so using the link in the episode notes. Brewing next week on the Coffee House is part 3 of Lynchian Picks, a discussion on David Lynch's Dune. I will see you there. Hello, welcome back, everybody. In case you missed it, I've switched from a mango hard seltzer to this raspberry one, so that's what happened during the break. So, everyone, this is our now showing segment, and this is our feature ideological analysis and critical film review segment by yours truly and guest. Now showing in today's episode is Wake in Fright. While on his way to Sydney to spend the holiday with his girlfriend, school teacher John Grant stumbles upon Tabunda, a town full of men who gamble, roughhouse, and most importantly, drink beer. Tempted by the opportunity to win some cash and make it out of teaching, John gambles with the intense group of men. Wake in Fright, also known as Outback in the States, was directed by Ted Kotcheff and stars Gary Bond as John Grant and Donald Pleasance as Doc. It debuted in 1971. Jarrod, first of all, watching this film, it started out as a very difficult process because, one, it's not Wake in Fright here in the States, so I had a hard time finding it. And two, it's virtually inaccessible in the States. And I had to actually go to the Internet Archive to watch this movie. That was maybe the only place that it was accessible. Just getting into it, I was so confused by so many things. I didn't know whether like the things I was watching in this movie, if it was just like Australian culture or if it was genuinely weird shit happening. So I want some official Australian interpretation of this movie. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad you opened up with this because this is something I really wanted to touch on as well, because it's like Australia is massive. It is the size of America, but with nothing in it. Like everybody, like 90% of the population lives like I think in like 50 kilometers of the coastline.
Wow.
So unlike America, which I've road tripped and been like when you're like town, state, town, there's things. There's literally a couple of points on the east coast. I live in South Australia, Northern Territory. There's just a few little points where people live, and then everything it's just like desolate. There is like nothing. So this film is set in the outback, and another just translation that is the desert. So just think like the desert or the plains or just like, the middle of nowhere.
Not the steak restaurant for American listeners, not the steak restaurant.
Oh, that's so good. I love me Outback. We've got Outback here, but
really?
Only like 2 locations. Yeah, only like 2 locations exist.
That's so weird.
Yeah, and they put all these like tacky words that we don't use onto food and drink sizes, and it's just like, these things don't exist here. That's just a...
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's focusing on very regional, very outback sort of living. And then just to talk about this style of film, I think because Australia is not a big, I guess when it comes to art, we're not like a massive producer of, and like same thing with like sports. Like a lot of Australia's not really famous for a lot of stuff. It doesn't influence pop culture as much as say like American or even like British like television movies are way more popular.
Right.
So I think what we've done is we've kind of like sold a story to the rest of the world in like a very uniqueness that we can like give you. Like we've given you the Crocodile Hunter. Like I know that in the States you guys love that.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the things that you love so much. And because it's very, Australian and this and crikey saying things, and it's like that's something that is very sellable to people, to the mass audience. And so this is a film I wanted you to watch to begin with, because a lot of these films will sort of be kind of based in like the same sort of environment. That's like the outback of regional small town, and like, and these stories will like change. Like, there'll be like more outback horror. Yeah, there might be like some small town stories of like trying to save someone's house. Like very. But so you were asking, is this real or is this just like an over dramatization of what Australian culture is? I think there is just like the outback is different. But I think all of us are a little bit like that. So like if you got it, but you dialed it down. So like say there's like a slider and it goes like it's, and it's like there's 0 and there's 100. What you saw is 100. Most people are about 30. So like we do drink a lot of beer. We do make up a lot of slang. I wrote in my notes, I don't know if you noticed in the movie, but everyone keeps saying Jack, and Jack is a term that's just anybody. It's like mate. It's more of an old school thing. Like this was done in like in the 70s, probably filmed in the 68, 69, so it was a very old film. So they're using terminology that's relevant and language that's relevant at that time. But yes, we call everybody mate. But then we also have jobs and to go live in the city, and we get American culture. We love things. We watch movies and TV, so we also pick up slang. And I'm like, hey man, what's going on? But we say mate, we say things, but like a very outback ochre sort of way of speaking. So it is definitely, there is an essence of it in all of us, I think. And we do like drinking a lot of beer, and there is a lot of good Australian references. But as far as the outback goes and who we are as Australians, it is all the way up there. And trust me, you will meet people that are like that, but it's not everybody. Most of us, we all live in cities and just go to work and go to the beach and go camping and fishing and
that's lightly horrifying.
Well, it's like me watching a movie and thinking everybody is like watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? And just thinking everybody is from the South and everybody lives in like creepy rundown houses with their whole fucking family, and people just fucking go missing all the time. Like it's not... The States is so big that is not
Yeah.
everybody, but yes, it sort of does exist like that. Like there is, and every
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good comparison, because in my like overall notes when I was done with this movie, I was like, this is like the Australian Texas Chainsaw Massacre almost meets like the kind of like cult horror of Midsummer.
Mm.
I don't know if you've seen
Yes,
Midsummer.
yeah, no, that's also on
Okay.
my notes to talk about as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely felt like that as well. How is this movie thought of with Australians? Is this like a popular movie in Australia? Because, like I said, over here, it's virtually inaccessible. I've never heard of it. So I assume it's not very popular in the States. How is it over there?
I think at the time it was well received. There is something I also missed as well. This is also known as the Lost Movie. I'm actually going to bring something up because the master tapes were actually lost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they were only found in like I think 2001. But no, the movie was released. I think it just got a different. It got remastered or something like that. Anyway, I have to look at that. But no, I think of the time, it was good and like it was well received. And I think that it got like the rebrand to Outback, so obviously for international audiences to sell. So I'm sure it was probably shown at a few like indie film like some film festivals, probably like got like a few small showings. As like it's a hard thing to talk in like the general reception of Australia and the public because it's a movie that is over 50 years old now.
Yeah.
So it's a very old movie, so people that know about it still, I mean, that's how many movies in the States that like, you know, like there's like a few, but we're not talking about you know, older films. Like when was The Godfather released? I know that's a classic, but I mean, like how many people in their 20s and 30s are watching The Godfather? A few. And the other thing is, like, I grew up like art kid, surrounded just punk, like skateboarding. Like we went out of our way to find weird shit, and this is definitely
Yeah.
super fucking weird. And then because all my friends are similar to me, we can all be like, have you seen Wake and Fright? Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Or like, oh, no, that sounds so interesting. I'm going to watch it. So it's like the echo chamber of people that I surround myself with and grew up with. We all fucking
Yeah.
know it and we really love it. But it's very cult classic. It's one of those ones that, like, if it was to come out today and it got and a production house had to like pick it up, it'd be A24 getting on that thing. It's we're not getting bigger, you know, we're not getting Miramax on this thing. It's not big budget. It's not all this stuff. It's very it's still very indie. It's interesting as well because I met Melissa in New Zealand when we were both working there. And when we first started dating, one of the things we did is there was a video store, like an old school video store in Wellington. And what we used to do is we'd go there and we would get like, we'd rent like 4 films, or I think 5 films or something, like, because it was like 5 for a week. And we'd go one each that we wanted to show the other one that we both were interested in watching, and then I think one was just a wild card. And I think one of the first things I was like, hey, this is great, this is vinyls looking, but like, you know, looking through it, and I was just like, oh shit, Wake and Fright's there, I gotta show her that. And then like, and then it was good, like you just go up and there's like the video store clerk guy there, and he's just like, hell yeah, like he pretty much did that with all the picks because we were picking like cool stuff. Like, you know, there was another one.
Yeah, Melissa probably picked like Hunger Games, Twilight, Gremlins. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was just she was picking like Korean horror and Japanese horror, like Train to Busan, like, you know, things like that. And I was like, let's watch Silence of the Lambs and stuff. But yeah, but anyway, New Zealand guy, but once again works in a fucking video store, so I think yeah. So the wide reception, it's hard to say. I know that it probably did pretty well, and I know people know about it, but I think it still is kind of like an indie cult classic. Probably lesser known. Like, people are going to the cinema and they're watching, you know, what's being pumped out, and then like how many people are going to see. Like, I know A24 is really kind of more in the mainstream now. Like people know that, and they're
Right.
putting out a lot of stuff and signing a lot of things, so they're a bit more mainstream now. But yeah, not everyone's going and watching weird A24 films. So yeah, I think indie classic. I think some of the other movies that will follow this will probably be a bit more of an Australian classic, where you could probably talk to, like, say,
Yeah.
my parents or like people of that generation, and they go, "Oh, I remember that. Oh, I know that one that got played on." Look, it never really got played on TV here, like on the
Yeah.
Friday night, Saturday night. Movies. 'Cause, yeah, back in the day, that's how you watch two movies. You just watch what came up on TV. So some of these other ones will be on that list. I don't think this was one that got a rerun. So yeah.
Speaking of that, moving to just kind of like the content of this movie, what stands out to you about this film?
Oh, I love horror that gets you in this different way, where it emotionally drives you in a different direction. That's not jump scare, or that's scary, or that's fucked up. Like, I love, like, the bleakness and, like, the sense of feeling trapped. And when they do that really well, it's just, yeah. And I saw this and I was like, yeah, this is a horror movie, and this is very different to, like, Outback horrors where it's serial killers and that. It's like, he just can't fucking leave. Like, he just tries, and just every time someone gets you, and the way they've written all this, like, the characters around, that is actually pretty true. Like, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, no, just come here, or I'll give you a lift, or I'll just go there." Yeah. And, like, that is very true. But, like, yeah, the feeling of being trapped, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting that the horror of this movie is something that really anyone can experience. Sorry, I'm saying this as you're taking a swig of beer, but like the horror of the movie is like being drunk almost. And you mentioned this when we were texting back and forth about the movie, but Wake in Fright is really like the perfect title for this movie because I think there were like two instances in the film when John Grant wakes up and he kind of like is frightened by what happened the night before. He's very confused and everything. It's almost like the monster of this movie is like a drunk night out because you don't really know what happened, especially when you get to kind of like the later drunk scenes, I guess you could call them, when you see the character Doc like kind of assaulting John Grant. It's very alarming, and he wakes up the next day and he kind of just keeps moving on, which is scary. And it kind of is pointing out like how it, like you said, it's like this web that you can't quite leave, and when you try to leave you just end up back there again. And it is almost pointing out like that, just like this culture of like sharing a beer is almost like instigating that. And yeah, I don't quite know if the film is like critiquing just like the attitude of like, oh, come have a beer with me, like that community, and like pointing it out as a cult. But it's quite interesting and it's quite horrifying.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, an analysis of that in, like, 2025, because this movie came out in 1971, and also just, like, not being, like, as an Australian, like, because what you're saying is makes sense. It's a perfect, like, analysis of it. But for me, it's like, I don't think that's maybe where they were going with it, because as well,
Yeah.
in the 60s and 70s, there was, like, we just still smoked inside, like, the health, like, the focus on health and, like, heart disease and things like that was just so not there that, yeah, I just see the entrapment, but I don't think it's a comment on alcohol. I think they used it
Yeah.
as as a way to drive this weird narrative. But no, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just, yeah, it's interesting because I'm
Yeah,
like, I
no.
don't think, if looking through the lens of, because what, the guy who directed it in the 70s, I mean, like, he's gonna have been born in what, like, 1940. If he made
Yeah.
it when he was 20, 1950. Like, I'm thinking
Yeah.
he's 30. He might even be 40 when the guy that made this at the time. So he might have been like 1930s. Like, I don't think that they're like, maybe, but yeah, I'm just like looking through the lens of someone born in that era then, of like how they would make this film and like see these themes. because it's so, I think it's so interesting when we look at film, especially older film, and like there's things that are like problematic, but it was never like thought about to be problematic. Like it's just a weird one. There is the Adam Sandler film that was a remake of a The Longest Yard. Did you ever see The Longest Yard? It was an Adam
No.
Sandler film where he's like a sports star who gets done, I
Um,
think, for drink driving and has to go to jail, and then he starts a sports team in the county jail. That was originally starred. Oh, what's his name? This is the dad thing. You forget your names. Old school movie star was still relevant in some films, but the opening to that film back in the day, in the first 2 seconds, he just straight up beats this, like his wife, just like smacks her across, and she just goes flying across the room. And that's not like a comment on anything. It's just like, oh, that's just how it fucking was back then.
yeah. Chris
That
Rock. Was it Chris Rock?
Chris Rock was it? No, it's not Chris Rock. No, it's
Oh, he's in that movie. Burt
yeah,
Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds. No, it was Burt
Yeah.
Reynolds was
Okay.
originally Adam Sandler's character, and he cameoed back. Yeah, but yeah, it's Burt Reynolds, and he just wallops this woman. It's just fucking bizarre. And like, when did
Yeah.
that film came out? So it's always like when I think about older films, I just try to think about like what was the mindset of those people back
Mhm.
then. So I think I really just went on like a bit of a tangent there because I
No,
was
no.
talking about like the horror of it, of like a drunken night out, and maybe like commenting on like, is having a beer dangerous? I don't think so. Just coming from like an Australian sort of, and
Yeah, I'm not saying I yeah,
I know
I
what you're
think you
saying.
bring up I'm not saying like this movie is like be sober, like it's trying to spread that
If
message or
it was, yeah,
anything. And
it's a be sober
I
campaign for the
um
dangers of drinking. Look,
this
let's.
movie kind of does, yeah, this movie does make me want to be sober, honestly. So if that was their intention, it worked. But it does kind of crack open this, like, this movie cracks open like this discussion of like intention versus interpretation. I looked it up while you were talking. The director, Ted Kochev, he was born in 1931, so he would have been about 30 to 40 when he was making this. So obviously I think he has like much different intentions with this movie than like someone in 2025, a 24-year-old in 2025 had watching it. Like what I got out of it is obviously a lot different. But it, I mean, beer is definitely a symbol here. And I almost think like the way it's used so much, like so obscenely, it's kind of like almost like a satire or like just the extent to that it goes to with its like over exaggeration. There were moments of this movie where I just had to laugh. Like it kind of works as a comedy movie in some parts, but then it just kind of digs itself so much deeper that like I got to the point where I was like, oh, like this isn't funny anymore. Like I'm thinking specifically of the scene. They're at the beer shop or liquor store, bottle as you guys call it. And they're like fighting on the porch. John Grant's passed out on the floor, and they're just roughhousing and like literally tearing this house down as they're roughhousing and like throwing each other everywhere. And that was really funny, just how violent they were being. But then the next scene, they go back to Doc's house, his shack, and that's the scene I was talking about with like the assault, and like the lights are flickering. I think they shoot out the lights, and there's like these different images of like all the different people from the town, and also like John Grant's girlfriend. And it's quite frightening and unsettling. So it's almost like a satire to the point of being horror, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I do think that though, that like, talking about like the pub thing, I think shit like that happens. I've got kind of close to like, but then I'm like from Queensland, which is a bit more bogan, as we'd say. So like, I guess like it's a bit more like lowbrow. But yeah, no, I've definitely been closing time at the pub, and it's been a bit something like that. But yeah, no,
Yeah, it's like
it is nuts. As I said, they have dialed it up for the
Mhm.
movie. But yeah, I do think we kind of are a bit like this.
Yeah, I mean, you
It
said earlier like the 30% true sort of number.
Yeah, for most
So
people, and then maybe for me, you can move the slider up to about 50 because it's just me.
don't say
Because
that. Don't say that.
I love a beer, and I've had a yeah. It's going to be really interesting as well. I just thought about it because there's a film that came out 2 years ago. I started getting ahead of myself, and I think I sent you a message, and maybe I unsent it because I was like, oh no no no. I was like, so there's a film that was made 2 years ago that's essentially this film again, like, but
Mm.
it's good. It's called trying to think of it once again, the brain. But there is a film that does the exact same thing, and it's set
Mm.
in the exact same way, but it's shot like only a couple of years ago. So it'll be very interesting to bring
Interesting.
this film back. This is why I made
Yeah.
us watch this first before we get into
Yeah.
other stuff, because yeah, it'll just be interesting to see the way that they use the lens of all of this.
Yeah, and like you were saying, this just feels ahead of its time in like the larger film landscape. After I watched this, I don't know if we talked about this during the break or not, but this reminded me a lot of Midsummer. It's kind of just like that cult horror movie where like you have this feeling of like you can't get out and you're sort of indoctrinated into this like really scary community. So and obviously this film came way before all of that, way before even like other cult movies like Suspiria, I believe. But yeah, it's interesting like how far ahead this movie was, just kind of in a genre sense as well.
Definitely, yeah. Like the talk about Midsummer, that was like something I noted as well, because like Midsummer was like such like a good a different, like a groundbreaking sort of horror, because it was shot all in daylight, so you couldn't do the dark, dim
Yeah.
jump scares thing. And like this film is shot like it's definitely like old school film stock, but like it's very vibrant. The colors,
Yeah.
it's very similar to the photography of like William Eggleston, where it's just like it's not like washed out. They haven't like tried to create. It's like actually quite vibrant. And so yeah, it's
Mhm.
like so interesting that like yeah, like there is day and night, and like the horrors of like the previous nights flashing before, and like the kangaroo scenes that are dark, but like it still kind of like is scary even when it's daytime.
Yeah.
Like it really just
Mhm.
yeah, really really interesting the way that they use that they don't crank. It's not like they're just like, oh, it's the scary scene, let's just get everything really
Yeah.
dark. Like it's a slow build, and like the use of like lighting and day and night, and the way that they like use like the bender is like very cool, because like it slowly creeps up on you. Like it really is kind of just like a bender essentially. Like you think it's
Yeah.
all good, and then the second day, like, oh, I'm a bit rusty, but I can probably go again. And then like the third day, you're like, oh man, like I don't
Yeah.
know, but everyone's going like, yes, let's do it. And then you're just getting caught up. It's almost like what we were talking about before, but it's almost like getting caught up in something. There's just this kind of wave that takes you, because we're like going like, oh, is it alcohol? Like the way, beers and things like that. I think what they're doing is they're using maybe the idea of like a bender, and people this is like using as this like cycle to like that you just get caught in, like it's a wave, and you just like can't escape.
Exactly. And I know as someone who just celebrated their birthday, like bottomless brunch, the next day I was like, wow, I'm never gonna drink again. And here I am. It's kind of like that feeling. I really like towards the end of the film. I really like this character of John Grant, and I love towards the end of the film when he hitches a ride and he gets off, and the guy's like, "Oh, like why don't you come inside for a beer? Like let's have a beer." And he's like, "I don't want a beer. Can't anybody in this town not have a beer?" And he just like loses it, and the guy is just like, "All right, mate." Like, um, it's very much like I would say the same thing if I went through that much drinking for that many days. But yeah, and I think what you're saying about the cycle works really well. Seeing the end of this film and how kind of he just returns to how things were before. And even though he had like these larger ambitions of escaping the cycle of teaching, um, there he
Mm.
went back to his old place and just kind of, the guy that worked at whatever housing, I think it was a hotel. I
Yeah,
honestly don't know.
yeah, pub. So the pub
Yeah.
is short word for public house, so it is a hotel. So like a lot of
What?
yeah, yeah. So pub is short for public house. So back in the day, a public house was like anyone can go there and you can get food, you can get drink, and you can get a bed to sleep in. Like so, not everyone that goes to the pub does that, but yeah. So it got shortened. It's shortened word pub, and that's why a lot of them are called like hotels. So like if you're here like down the road, we got the Findon Hotel. It's called the Rat and Parrot, but it's the Findon Hotel. And yes, there still is a hotel there. And then in some of the pubs in the city, like yeah, the hotel side has just been extended into more of the pub, and it just might be called yeah. But they all say hotel, and everyone's like, oh, it's confusing because you just go there to drink, and it's like no, they all used to be hotels. They used to be places, and yeah, that's why it's called pub,
Wow.
public house.
That's crazy. So that's why in Skyrim, when you go to the inn, you can also drink there.
Yeah,
Do you play
yeah.
Skyrim?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's basically that's I think more English, and then we've just called it like yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. I'd never do that.
Hmm.
Um, well, so the guy that runs the pub there in whatever town he's in the outback, um, he wouldn't even know the difference that like what he just went through in that other town with all the beer drinking and all that. He would have never known. So yeah, it kind of like this movie does tackle like that larger cycle of drinking and how like you're rusty and then you just kind of, I don't know, go back to your normal life.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
It's
interesting.
yeah, it's definitely getting caught, and it's cool because like he's got the cycle of like every day, and then like tries to go into that holiday and just gets trapped in this whole other side of it.
Yeah, he never even makes it to his girlfriend, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
it's very sad.
um yeah, speaking of that, girlfriend girls, this is definitely like a 2025 interpretation. Maybe not what they were thinking in 1971, but this movie, a lot of kind of gender stuff comes out of it when I watch it. Um, it's pretty much all about men, and the very, very, very few women that you do see in this movie or who have speaking parts are in a very like subservient role. And again, probably just a sign of the times, but I think specifically about the wife character. And she was very strange because she was, of course, like very subservient, but she was almost like she was in a trance,
Mm.
which I thought was very strange. She was acting very odd. And what did you make of that?
I think it was almost his daughter. I can't even remember if it was his wife or if it was actually his daughter.
Oh, really?
I believe it was his daughter
Interesting.
because I think
Okay.
she goes, "Oh, Dad, me and John are going for a walk now." You know,
Oh.
yeah. So I think it's like his daughter, but yeah, no, yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. Like I'm super curious to like think about this a little bit more as well, because there's yeah, like the outback and like the strange. It's mainly men. It's not just women. Definitely sign of the times. It was also like also strange, I guess, for a movie in like 1971. Like that night that they got fucked up, and he goes back to Doc's shack. It's kind of like insinuated that like they've slept together. Like so, like he's like slept
Yeah.
with another man. Um,
Mm.
Yeah, which is quite interesting. I mean, like it's
Yeah.
like to be putting that out there back then. Um, Very interesting because the next movie I want to watch with you that I'm going to put you onto is also shot in the outback. It's called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert,
I
and
know
it's
that one.
yeah. Have you
Okay.
seen it? Have you watched it before?
I haven't seen it, but I know it's like a queer film,
It's about
like
drag queens,
necessity.
yeah, in the
Yeah.
outback,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's interesting because they're tackling those sort of themes then. Which and this,
Mm.
I think, was shot in the '80s. That film,
Yeah.
um,
Mm.
But yeah, like yeah, I think what you were saying about like the so I think it's his daughter like being like in a trance. It was sort of I think she felt stuck in a small town, and I think that like that is also like a thing for like rural
Hmm.
people, and like especially now it's still like a problem like where these like rural cities like smaller towns that are like the central hubs to a lot of people that live further out, they're losing like people are moving away because like these young people just don't have anything. And I think
Yeah.
yeah, her just yeah stuck there. I just think that that trance is just being like stuck in the middle of nowhere. It's like that small town sort of like you're just stuck and you just
Hmm.
this is all you know and you just kind of do the cycle, you know.
Yeah. And another one of the other really like notable female characters in this film was the lady. It almost I forget where she was working, but it almost like she was working in a box office, like at a theater. But I think she was maybe outside the pub he was staying at when he was in the small town. And whenever he would ask her a question, she would answer like very monotone. Like he asked where the job exchange was, I think it was. And she was just like, it's 2 blocks down, take a left, then keep going 1 block, and then you'll find it. Just very like sorry, I had to bring it up. I have to bring it up. Very Lynchian
Yeah,
characters.
yeah, yeah.
They just act in a very like it's a very mundane but very off-putting way.
Mm.
And that's it's like specifically how the female characters acted in this film felt very Lynchian to me.
Yeah, no, it's very
So
interesting. Yeah, because she was just she worked at the pub once again, public house. She was staying
yeah,
there,
yeah.
but she was just like I guess
Front
the
desk.
yeah front desk. But yeah, it's like she's just yeah, pressing heat. She was just so like oh, but yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, like they
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like
and she
give it
had the water and she would
yeah,
dip her finger. She
just so hot.
it's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I think like those people in real life are a bit more like, oh hey, how's it going, doll? Oh, it's so bloody hot out here. Oh, they're not like in that trance. They're not
Hmm.
like the that daughter as well. Like she seems like she's just like addicted to just fucking like Prozac. Well, not Prozac. Anyway, drug reference there. Addiction
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
fucking stuff we overprescribe and people just get, you know, it's basically opioids, pills and shit like that. Anyway, yeah, it felt like she was just like absolutely just like yeah,
Out of it. Yeah.
rotting away. Yeah, and same with her. Yeah. That's interesting that the way that they use those characters because I know those people that would work in that sort of job or live in that sort of town and they aren't like that. They're a bit more like, oh, hey, how's it going? How's it going? You know, like they're a bit more like the men in. So the men in there are very like they are Australian. Like I know those people. Like those people exist. But I think the women are more like the men as well. And so the way that those female characters are portrayed are definitely used in a certain way. Like they were specifically designed to be a certain way. Like I think that even if it's like if it was like a vice for him, you know, temptations sexually, or if it was like the heat that's oppressing her down, like the girl at the pub, really just like yeah. So yeah, they were definitely designed to do as a vehicle to it wasn't actually representative of how the women are here. I think in the outback, I think they're way more like the men, a bit more like loud and swearing and you know and overly nice.
This is what like makes me think maybe there is some intention because it is a repeated pattern with the women. And it's just it's odd enough where I take note of it. And the fact that it was with multiple women throughout this film, I was like, I think this is saying something. And at times, the men drinking together, it was so they were so like physical with one another that I was like, okay, well, they might as well just start like I don't know. It just got to the point where I was like, this just it feels very queer. Um, So it's interesting that like I don't know. I feel like the film touches on that very lightly.
Mm.
Um, it's just a very interesting aspect of this movie.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like, because as well, I touch my friends all the time, but I'm secure enough as my person. And I'm like, hey,
Right.
man, what's going
Yeah.
on? And like, you're just like, yeah, very such like, I think that that's maybe like a cultural thing as well here in Australia, just a bit more
Yeah.
like that. But no, no, there's definitely something in there that they're running at because yeah, that's
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, very implied, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like the character of Doc, who is behind you right now, is that Doc?
Yeah, that is dark.
Yeah, okay. I feel like he's kind of like the vehicle for that, where he is kind of like maybe I feel like this film is kind of about borderlines too, and oh my gosh, wow, I'm kind of like realizing as I'm speaking. And Dog is kind of like the character that just kind of breaks through those borders where it's like, okay, well, like this is like the appropriate way to act when you've had a lot with friends, like drank a lot. And then once you cross this line, it starts to get like, okay, that's when it becomes like bad. That's when it becomes inappropriate. And I feel like Doc is the character that crosses a lot of those lines. And um my kind of like brain blast moment I just had was when he was outside of the house with John Grant and he was talking to him about like how him and the daughter of that one guy, how they're both people that don't really have any boundaries and they kind of live freely, and you know they don't need anything. That weird monologue he had. So I feel like that was kind of the writer of the film saying like that Doc is this character who lives without this kind of like the right or wrong boundaries without a black and white. He sort of just like blurs the lines. Yeah.
And like it's interesting as well. You've definitely picked up on this as well that Doc is the only other educated man there because like I mean like you
Mm,
can it's like most of the other people are just like working class like blue collar job like hey we've finished doing this we're having a beer like even like the police chief like is just like yep nah, time to have a beer you know like he's
yeah.
just doing that and then we're just going home whereas Doc's like I'm an educated man and like this place is like it's fucking loose, but like I'm just doing whatever, man. And it's like almost like the more like in tune kind of person, even though he is like not, you know, he's pretty fucked up in himself. He's the one that's like, I don't care. I'll just, you know, as we're talking about the dialogue that we live in our own freedoms and that, like, obviously he's going to be the one to probably be a bit more pushing those boundaries and those buttons and that. But yeah, it's funny that like yeah he's just like also the other only educated dude, but then he doesn't try and be like that around everybody else. It's just more like John, you know what's up, you're a man, you've
He's very
educated.
much like the opposite of John, because John is like a character who, throughout the whole film, is so concerned about money and like having enough money to make it to this point or that point, and that's basically why he like falls into this pit of like gambling and hanging around these guys is because he needs money to escape, his school teaching career. But then Doc is a character who's like, oh, you don't need money for anything. Like I don't spend money on anything. I go out and I hunt. I just get beers off of other people. Blah blah blah. Uh, they feel like opposites in that way. And I like that you pointed out like they're the two characters who are like educated or educators, but they are very much opposites of each other. Doc like really does feel like gonna bring it up again. He really does feel like one of those classic like David Lynch villains, except this film came before any of that.
Mm,
But he kind of reminds me of Blue Velvet. I think the
mm.
character is Frank in Blue Velvet, who's just kind of like this intimidating, awful, vicious man who is like so aggressive. He reminds me a lot of that character. Um, and it's very much like he is what our protagonist is scared of becoming. Like he's scared that if he keeps getting caught in this cycle, he will end up like that. Um, so I I think that similarity is really interesting as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because even if like he doesn't get caught in like Kabunda, like he'll go back to another even smaller place, and he'll just get caught up in that. You know,
Yeah.
it's like it's got different layers of like trying to escape things. Like he's trying to escape his job, then he's trying to escape. It's like yeah, it's just like they're just trying to leave. And yeah, I don't know how much of it is commentary on certain things or just using it as a vehicle, but the vehicle that they use is so good. That's why I love this film. You just feel so uneasy like the whole time. Like you get caught up. It's like when you watch like Curb Your Enthusiasm, or if you've ever watched like the studio that's coming out, it's just so like, fuck, he's saying that, don't do that. It's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like the opposite in like the more
Mhm.
horror, where it's just like, oh no, oh, like you're just seeing all this stuff, come up. And
Yeah.
yeah.
For our final point, I feel like the really like disturbing scene during all of this is the kangaroo hunting scene.
Hmm.
I thought that that was just shot really in a way that just emphasized like the horror, especially when like John Grant is pressured to like go out and kill one of the kangaroos. It's just terrifying, and the actor that plays John Grant just does it really well, and you can see like the hesitation in the character. And yeah, what did you think about that whole sequence?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's like the build up. Like, I was talking about how it's got that midsummer sort of like clarity about it. It's really not until then that it really gets dark. Like it's shot in at night, like it's using like minimal light. Like there's no ambient light. It's just like direct. Like we call them spotlights, or we just call them spotties because we just shorten everything. But yeah, it's just the whole thing is just spotties, and it's just like moving around, and you're like, it's just like only focused. Like you just can't see outside of the darkness. Like it's just very targeted where they're showing everything. Yeah, and yeah, it's just like such a cool scene because they work up to it in like a good way. Like the pacing of the film's really good. Like that's what I like about it as well. It's not like immediate horror. It's you just sort of there's just all these little things just like pulling at you. Also like the masculinity of like he's like being like you got to do this, come on mate, and then like
Yeah.
taking the testicles and fucking fighting kangaroos like yeah.
And they're even like, oh, like that's a small one, that's a baby. And John Grant's like, oh my God, this is a baby I'm killing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just kind of like the internal struggle of it all. And I think what makes the scene even more horrifying, which the Internet Archive I was watching this on, had a disclaimer right under the video player. So I knew this going in, but what makes this so terrifying is that this is not special effects. These are actually kangaroos being killed on screen, which I, that's just horrifying.
Yeah, well, it's like one of those things where it's like there's certain amounts of animals that have overbred, and in certain areas there's are too many kangaroos, and like so roo shooters do exist for a reason because without them they're gonna like demolish the habitat, which um, then other animals it's just like balancing out the ecosystem. Like so I know it's a bit political, I guess. Like some people be like, oh, well, you shouldn't do that, but no, there is like a thing here and in many places where like we just got to like balance the ecosystem quite a bit because we sort of the British fucked it up when they came here. They brought over foxes to hunt. And then the foxes just went and killed so much of like the native flora and fauna, and just like even like trees and shrubs and things like that. So then there was an under I wouldn't say quota. Yeah, there's not enough of the rest of the ecosystem to support the amount of kangaroos, and then the kangaroos overindulge in certain things and make certain birds and that. So yeah, no, and it said that the roo shooting was done like there, and it was done by like in areas because there is like a culling that needs to be done. So
Yeah. I got a disclaimer at the end of, I don't know if what versions we both watched, but at the end it said like the footage was from like an actual kangaroo hunt, like an official one,
Yeah.
and it was done like with the right permissions and like authorities and everything. So it wasn't like this was just completely unethical. There
Just
were kind
let's
of
go
like,
out. Just,
just do it for the movie, yeah.
it's Australia. I wouldn't be surprised if in the 70s they did that shit. But like, no, it is good. And
Right.
yes, no, they do put that at the end of the movie, so
Yeah.
everybody knows. Yeah. So,
Do you have any other points you'd like to discuss about this film?
um, I'll just point out some trivial stuff, but it's not really
Uh,
like an analysis of the movie. Like, I think we've just like really covered sort of the ground. Because yeah, I could give you one or two trivial things, and then maybe if depending on what you want, I might talk about a few other movies to watch in the future, and then we can do an episode again on those. But like just like almost like foreshadowing the next couple of films, because I think this is like a good one to start with. But yes, so there is a gambling game here in Australia. It's called Two Ups. It is the game that they were playing, but you can only play it on one day. It's called Anzac Day. Anzac stands for Australian New Zealand Army Corps. It was put together in World War II. And so the Anzacs were people that fought on Gallipoli Beach. And so it's kind of like a Memorial Day for you guys. I think,
Interesting.
yeah, so it's just called Anzac Day, and it's there to like celebrate. We call them the Diggers, which are the soldiers. Yeah. So
Okay.
to celebrate the Diggers, and on that day, that's when you can play Two Ups, because that's just the game, and it's just two coins, and it's just you just call heads or tails, and you just like you're betting on heads or tails, and you go, well, I've got some money, like I've got $10, are you putting in $10? And whoever loses just gives the other person the $10. It's just like one for one.
That was one of those things that watching this, I was like, is this just like kind of an exaggeration or is this real? Like, because I wrote down in my notes right here, I was like, why are they playing like the most intense coin toss I've ever seen? I had no idea like what they were doing, so that is great context to
Yeah,
have.
yeah, and it does happen like that. Everyone's in like a circle and yelling,
Yeah.
and yeah. I went out for beers on Anzac Day in the city with one of my friends who served, because it's for basically everybody that served.
Yeah.
Yeah, even to this day. So it's like Veterans Day, Memorial Day, something like that. But yeah, no, everybody does get around in a circle and just yells, and yeah, does that. And we just got beer, and we're just like. I'll send you a video
Yeah,
of
please do. I
somebody.
want to compare it to the movie.
Yeah. It's a bit more people in military uniforms with like yeah, and then just a couple of people in there. But so yeah, that was the trivial one. I don't know if we said this off mic or not, but the town is a fictional place. It's actually set in South Australia in Broken Hill. Broken Hill is like it's like on the very corner. It's like between like two states almost. But a lot of films were shot out in Broken Hill, Australian films. So, and it's like very interesting because there is one film that you'll have to watch, and there's actually a film that's coming out, and the whole essence of the film is so fucking different to the first two films. I think you know what I'm about to say. Mad Max.
Okay. All
I,
right,
I
yeah.
have not watched any of the Mad Maxes above two.
Really?
Maybe I've watched half of three, which when it started to change. But like, yeah,
Yeah.
Fury Road and like the whole reboot, it's so fucking different.
Yeah,
To
it is.
So, have you watched Mad Max 1 or 2?
I've seen 1 and 2 and then Fury Road and Furiosa. I haven't seen
Okay.
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Three's where they try to like change it a bit more into like
It
Fury
has like
Road and Furious.
Tina Turner in
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah, but you've watched 1 and 2. That's great.
Yeah.
Because that would be on the list as well. So 1 and 2.
Great. Okay.
Sorry, it's just because we could just like get this out of the way now. 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Once
yeah.
again, this is all filmed in Broken Hill. I think they're all originally going to be like. I think Fury Road was supposed to be filmed in there, but it ended up because of budget, and it was a really weird movie. It got filmed in South Africa instead.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's a whole thing. It got made and then it got delayed and then delayed and delayed and then the director changed and then it went off to South Africa. But yeah, 1 and 2 very different because they're set in this outback thing. It's basically like a man's wife is killed and then he's like looking for revenge. And he's just driving his like hotted up car around, and it's not until it got yeah, and it went from like a revenge story in the outback to like I don't know, like a post-apocalyptic driving around the desert in like post-punk cars, and I'm just like,
Yeah, that's like the weirdest thing for me when I was like catching up on Mad Max movies was like I watched 1 and 2, I skipped 3 and I went to Fury Road and I was like, okay, when did like the punk apocalypse happen? Because
three.
it happened somewhere between 1 and 2.
Yeah, it has sort of happens in 3. That's when it just starts like
Yeah,
getting put in there.
because 1, I could see 1, it happens like in kind of the real world almost. It
Yes.
still feels a little dystopian. It's just it's very strange, like the evolution of that series, and I'm excited to talk about that because famously, I mostly do not like any of the Mad Max movies.
Hmm.
So those would be very interesting to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like, we could do an episode that's just a bit more of a catch-all of like when we've watched a couple and like maybe just talking about how all of these films like connect together. But yeah, it's not massive on my list to watch, but it was definitely on the list. Mad Max 1 and 2, but yeah, very different. But yeah, just like that was filmed in Broken Hill as well. That's where like a lot of these sort of outback horror sort of things start, and that's exactly what Mad Max 1 and 2 was. It was an outback horror. Like it's filmed with a blue tint, like it's like the color grading is made very blue, like it, as you said, it's still in the real world, but it's just yeah, just kind of makes you feel empty and dystopian, and just and that maybe is just the essence of the outback sometimes, that it can be like that.
Yeah, and once they start wearing like leather jock straps, and I don't know, studded bras, in their souped up cars, I'm like, okay, something weird is happening here.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just
those those movies are crazy.
this is just something I wrote down. It doesn't really connect to much in the in there, but this is just probably as well just like gives like a little context to like Australia and like the outback, and it's just the real world horrors of just like how it can be. So obviously we're going to probably cover some serial killer, Wolf Creek, if you've ever watched any of those, you know,
No.
like I could talk about Australian serial killers and that, but this is more of like a this is one for just talk about mental health and what it's like out there for people. So in these communities, it's very isolating, and it's also very dry out there, and farming in these places can be very like hard to do, especially with like all the changes in climate that have just been happening with like the climate crisis and everything.
Hmm.
But it is a very real thing that a lot of farmers, a lot of men take their own lives because of just
Mm.
how of just the conditions and how just bad it gets out there. As I said, it doesn't relate to this film at all, but just to give people like an idea of like it can be pretty bad out there. There was something that popped up in it that made me write it down, but I just think that
Well,
it's like an interesting thing to note, not just be like, oh, isn't the outback silly and weird, and then we'll watch one about serial killers or outlaws and be like, oh, well, everyone's getting killed, but the very realness of what goes on out there.
I think that's something we didn't discuss, was the suicide scene. That to me
That's
was
what.
like very, yeah,
Mm,
it was so jarring, and obviously like all this kind of funny weird stuff is happening throughout the film, but when it gets to that, it's obviously just very serious and very horrifying, to watch that. And I feel like we've been talking a lot about like the intention behind this film versus the interpretation, and I feel like if anything, that message that you just said, how hard it is out in the outback, like that could very well be the intention behind this, especially because we see this character that who kind of becomes acclimated with this community. um, by the end of it, he is tempted to take his own life. So it's just showing like how someone who, was just on his way to Sydney but gets kind of caught up in this other town, um, where that can lead. Yeah, at the end, it's a very serious story. And then, I think this a lot could be said about like men's mental health in this movie, especially because like when he gets back to the pub in his hometown to go back to teach at his school, the pub owner couldn't tell the difference of what happened. He couldn't tell like that this man just had a suicide attempt or anything. So I think that's a really fitting conclusion to this discussion, is like maybe this movie is like really seriously trying to tackle like men's mental health, specifically in Australia, which I think it does really well.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, that is why I wrote that note down, because I thought it was important to bring up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I've learned a bit about this movie myself, just having these discussions, and just because it definitely is. I guess probably tackling the mental strain on a lot of people, and also the substance abuse of alcohol, and and not talking about feelings, and not
and how it all affects like the women in this community and how they're acting off. Yeah, it's a lot. Okay, last question. What is your rating?
What's my rating? That's interesting. I'm just trying not to be like it's an 8. It's a straight 8. But no, I think it is definitely just like the beer. It's an 8 out of 10. It's great. It's a good film. I guess as well, for anyone that's going to watch it, like watching older films can be hard for people because it's not as like trimmed and polished, and the frame rate's not up. But like I think that the story is really there, and it can carry you through. So you don't just need to be If you love cinema, if you're a cinemaphile and love good story and that, you can watch this, and it'll be good. Yeah, no, 8 out of 10. I just love the setting. I'm a sucker for the outback. I'm sucker for the color grading on it. It's really just brings out like the earthiness and that, and really well done.
Yeah, I agree. I give this the Nick pick. I thought that this movie was great. Great introduction to our Australian film series, if you want to call it that, that we have set. So, yeah, thank you for introducing me to this movie, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, no worries. It's been a blast. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I can't wait for next time. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to Coffee Nick's Movie Picks. Before you go, be sure to follow at Coffee Nick's Movie Picks on Instagram and at Coffee Nick on Blue Sky. There you can stay up to date on everything about the show. Join the show's free Patreon page using the link in the show notes, and listen as I discuss David Lynch films every other week. One more thing, if you like what you heard, please rate the show on your podcast app of choice and share the show with your friends. A special thank you to Nathan Moore for creating the show's opening and closing themes. Until next time, I will not be having any more beer.